We said they were heroes. We never said they were intelligent. Generally speaking, a hero is expected to improve things at least a little bit. Typically, the protagonist of a story is meant to leave the world and its inhabitants in a better state than they found them. However, it seems these characters missed that memo. What were they busy doing, you ask? Making everything worse for everyone, of course. Whether intentionally or by accident, the characters you control as the player often end up making things worse than they were initially. Sometimes the hero is deceived by the villain. Other times, their own biases or personal issues lead to poor decisions. And occasionally, the hero is just a jerk. Whatever the reason, some video game heroes might not intend to cause havoc, but they're certainly not afraid to light a few matches to achieve their goals. So, in honor of these blunderers, failsons, and all-around mess-ups that you, for some reason, have been tasked with guiding through their disastrous choices, here are the 10 worst instances of video game heroes making things worse for everyone. 10. Chris Redfield, Resident Evil. Village. Resident Evil Village begins with the shocking murder of Ethan Winter's wife, Mia, and the kidnapping of his daughter, Rose. That's startling enough on its own, but here's the twist. The person who did the deed appears to be series veteran Chris Redfield. However, things are more complicated than that, unnecessarily so. As it turns out, that wasn't actually Mia. The real culprit was the main villain, Mother Miranda, who had kidnapped Mia shortly after Rose was born and used her shape-shifting abilities to take her place. As soon as Chris figured that out, he and his team filled her with lead. So, what's the problem here? Well, there's the tiny, insignificant detail that Chris did not tell Ethan any of this. Despite knowing that Ethan would be much more helpful if he knew someone had taken his wife again, Chris chose to keep him in the dark for reasons the game never explains. In fact, one of Chris's own men outright tells him that he should have explained things to Ethan sooner. There's literally no reason for Chris not to have told him earlier, or when he showed up to the village, or when he was taken in the convoy. Or 9. Gordon Freeman, Half-Life. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference, says the G-Man at the opening of Half-Life 2. And in the case of Gordon Freeman, he couldn't have been more right. Throughout all the battles with the Combine and the many alien hordes that came through the original portal in the first game, let's not forget that, technically speaking, this is all Freeman's fault. A freak accident, a long game by the G-Man, or perhaps simply cosmic punishment for man's hubris, caused Black Mesa's experiment at the start of Half-Life to go horribly wrong. The Resonance Cascade, as it was dubbed, unleashed a horde of alien monsters onto Earth. This was followed by the invasion of the Combine, who decimated and conquered Earth in a matter of hours. Whether that has anything to do with the original experiment, I'll leave for you to discover by actually playing this unfinished masterpiece of a series. But in terms of that humble original title, it's hard to deny that Freeman spends the entire game cleaning up his own mess. 8. Nier. At the start of Nier, all the titular character wanted was to find a cure for the disease known as the Black Scroll. Every decision he makes throughout the game, from forming a pact with a snarky magic book to teaming up with the most foul-mouthed anime girl on Earth, Kane, is driven by this larger goal. This goal, for various reasons, seems achievable by slaying the main villain, the evil Shadow Lord. Just one problem though, and unfortunately, this issue isn't revealed until the villain is dead. See, the game begins with Nier and his daughter living in the post-apocalypse. Now, how did this happen? Well, for reasons too lengthy to explain here, killing the Shadow Lord sets off a chain reaction that culminates in the end of the world, and it's all on Nier. The tragic part is that he didn't know this would happen going in. He was just trying to find a cure for a terrible illness. And well, he got it. It's just a shame that humanity being wiped out makes the cure pretty much useless. Whoops! 7. Wander, Shadow of the Colossus. Never underestimate the tunnel vision that grief can give you. Never doubt the lengths your mind will go to in order to block out every dissenting voice when it's set on a solution to your pain. For a lesson in this, look no further than Wander from Shadow of the Colossus. We don't know much about our hero Wander. All we concretely know is that he loved a woman named Mano. When Mano dies, Wander is tempted by a demon into a desperate bargain to bring her back to life. If Wander wishes to see Mano again, he must destroy the Colossi, 16 gigantic, ancient, powerful beasts. The demon's bargain is so transparently untrustworthy that it's a testament to Wanda's grief and desperation that he doesn't immediately see right through it. But sure enough, Wanda does what the demon asks, killing these majestic, unique creatures throughout the game, a task that ends up costing him everything in the end. Even though the demon is ultimately defeated, it doesn't change the damage Wanda inflicted. 16 unique creatures have been taken out of the world, and the world is all the lesser for it. 6. Link, Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. The last one on our list who was unaware of the damage caused by his actions is Link from Ocarina of Time. The entire latter half of the game is, low-key, Link's fault. Ganondorf knew he couldn't breach the sacred realm on his own, so he let this little kid, who was busy solving folks' problems, do it for him. Once Link did, however, Ganondorf swooped in and took the sacred realm for himself, leaving Link magically comatose for the next 7 years. While not entirely his fault, at least not to the extent of our final 5 entries, Link's single-minded determination to get the Master Sword and enter the sacred realm left him utterly unprepared for Ganondorf's trickery. This led to the Demon King subjugating all of Hyrule, or judging by the graphics of the game, just Castletown and a bit of the surrounding countryside, since everything else looks just fine. Few other versions of Ganondorf would display such guile, which is probably why we still remember Ocarina's otherwise bland version to this day. 5. Kratos, God of War, 3. Other games on this list end with the hero making everything worse, but Kratos starts screwing things up for everybody right from the beginning of his 3rd installment. On his way to finally bringing about the end of Olympus itself, with an army of titans right behind him, Kratos kicks things off with one of the coolest boss fights tutorials in gaming history against Poseidon. The fight is massive, hinting at the epic scale of the game to come. At the end of the fight, Kratos subjects Poseidon to one of the most brutal QTEs ever by having the player gouge out his eyes by pressing down on the analog sticks. And then all of Greece floods. Because that's what happens when you murder the god of the ocean. Whoops! Yes, Kratos casually and nonchalantly ends all of Greek civilization in the first 20 minutes of God of War 3. Nice going, buddy. 4. Daniil Dankovsky, Pathologic. Pathologic offers multiple characters to play through to get the best ending possible. Naturally, for a game this unendingly bleak, they start you off with the worst of the 3. And mind you, one of the other guys is a serial killer. Daniil Dankovsky, or the Bachelor as the game titles him, is described in the game as a prickly prick that will bury us all. And boy, does his storyline prove that sentiment correct. Dankovsky doesn't think very highly of the plague-stricken Russian steppe village where the game takes place. Being a city boy with a bachelor's in medicine, he naturally sees himself as God's gift to man, with his goal in the game being to overcome death itself like some kind of pulp-mad scientist. Throughout Daniil's story, you'll rub elbows with the city's elite, who want to weather the inevitable shelling of the city by the Russian military in a giant, architecturally disobedient structure on the edge of town, leaving the rest of the village to die. And even before this, Daniil's actions cause the burning of a strange giant cow that in the Haruspex's storyline, you learn, can actually help cure the plague. The summation of this idiot at the beginning of this entry is definitely accurate. If the Bachelor has his way at the end of Pathologic, that prickly prick really does bury them all. 3. Tim, Braid. Jonathan Blow's Braid is a story of obsession and how it blinds us. In this case, us is represented by the protagonist, Tim. The story of Braid is intentionally vague and mostly left up to interpretation. But one thing is clear, if you're paying attention to the visuals and the sparse bits of story the game provides, Tim doesn't think highly of anyone other than himself, and he doesn't even like himself that much either. If you know this game, then you know the twist at the end of the final level where it's revealed that the Princess Tim spends the entire story obsessively chasing is actually running away from him instead of toward him. But beyond his narrow-minded projections onto this woman he's decided to pursue, the entire game is filled with Tim killing every creature he encounters. The game literally keeps score and doesn't let you progress until every enemy is dead. This is at its most callous in the level where progressing means literally sacrificing a bunch of adorable little bunny rabbits to cannon fire. No wonder the princess was so desperate to get away from this psycho at the end. 2. Anders, Dragon Age 2. When we met Anders in Dragon Age Awakening, there was little reason to believe he had any profound thoughts on the plight of mages. The flippant, snarky young man was mostly following the warden around for a laugh, only really growing close to Justice, the noble spirit. The warden picks up along the way. When Hawk meets Anders in Dragon Age 2, however, things are different. The body Justice was using in Awakening had long since broken down, causing Anders to offer his own. However, when Justice possessed Anders, it opened up every trauma inflicted on Anders throughout his life by the Templars. This not only awakened Anders' revolutionary spirit, but also tragically mutated the noble spirit of Justice into a violent demon of vengeance, prone to taking over Anders and going on a rampage. What was intended as a symbiotic relationship turns, over the course of DA2, into a case of mutually assured destruction, with Anders and Vengeance's worst natures tearing them both apart. By Act 3, it's constantly up in the air which one is talking at any given time. This, of course, culminates in the tragic ending of Dragon Age 2, where Anders triggers the Mage-Templar War by blowing up the largest chantry in Kirkwall. Hawk has to leave the life they fought so hard for. The entire world is thrown into a violent war, and it's all Anders' fault. 1. Captain Walker, Spec Ops: The Line. In gaming lore, few protagonists are as notorious as the one who clearly deserved the top spot on this list. Spec Ops: The Line starts by drawing players in with all the familiar elements of APA titles from its time. Soldiers, helicopters, and a Middle Eastern backdrop. Yet, it skillfully turns these tropes on their head to brutally confront Walker, and by extension, the player, with the grim realities of military ethics and the war on terror. Throughout his mission, Walker dismantles what little remains of war-torn Dubai, committing increasingly horrific acts that culminate in the infamous white phosphorus scene. Regardless of which ending you reach, the game's bleak, nihilistic portrayal of military life remains hauntingly clear. It's a poignant reflection of a soldier who arrived seeking heroism but found only disillusionment amidst the ruins. That's all for today, my friends. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time with more amazing topics. Till then, peace.